Real Talk with Grace Redmond features conversations with fierce and fabulous people from Grace's community and circle who inspire others with their stories of overcoming challenges to create amazing. Grace is an entrepreneur and success coach who works with individuals to diminish their negative mental chatter, boost their confidence, achieve their goals, and increase their prosperity mindset. Get ready for a series of anything goes conversations with remarkable men and women that will get you jazzed for life's unlimited possibilities of success, freedom, and fun. Welcome to Real Talk with Grace Redmond.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a really exciting show. As always, if you have questions, put your questions in the chat. We'll definitely come back to answer those if we don't answer them live. And if you are here with us, please let us know, because I won't know unless you tell us that you're here. I hope everyone's doing great. And like I said, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Real Talk, where I get to have real life, raw conversations with incredible people from my circles and communities who have overcome challenges to create amazing. Today, I have the incredible and dynamic coach Patrick Walsh with us. Since taking over the helm of the Serra Padres in the spring of 2001, when he was only 26 years old, Patrick Walsh has become synonymous with Serra football. Walsh, the Padres' all-time winningest coach with 171 victories, led Serra to a 2017 CIF State Championship and has visited the California State Championship 4 out of the past 6 years. He was most recently named the 2020-2021 California State Football Coach of the Year for the Padres' 5-0 spring season and his role as a driving force in the restart of California youth sports during the pandemic, which literally affected millions of young lives. Crediting the core values of commitment, brotherhood, humility, personal accountability, a strong work ethic, and the cornerstone of Serra football, day before the game chapel services, Walsh has overseen the most successful period in Serra football history. Under his guidance, Serra has won 8 WCAL championships, 6 CCS championships, 4 NorCal championships, and 1 state championship in 2017. The 2017 and 2019 Padres also won the most games of any Serra team in school history. Before Walsh took over, Serra had only made the playoffs 3 times. Since his arrival in 2001, the Padres have made it to the playoffs 16 out of 19 seasons. His teams have set virtually every school and league record for every major offensive statistical category. Coach Walsh's impressive football history started when he played high school football at De La Salle. He was one of the most decorated players in the history of the program, and he was inducted into the De La Salle Hall of Fame in 2011. I am so excited to welcome Coach Patrick Walsh.
Wow, thank you. I forgot about half that stuff.
And that's not even all of it, Coach Walsh. Impressive.
Oh, thank you for the nice intro.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I know that you're busy, so I appreciate your time. And it's been incredible, to witness just all of the accolades and celebrations over the last several years. It's been a blessing to witness it. I can't even imagine what it feels like, for you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a weakness. I think kind of as I get older, it's kind of a weakness of mine or a strength, depending how you look at it. But, I got emotional just listening to you read all those things because, I don't look back. I don't really think backwards. What do I got to do today? What do I got to do to get better today? How am I going to make the team better? How am I going to make my business better? So, it's somewhat sometimes emotional when I think back. And that's why I don't like nostalgia is kind of a tough thing for me. I don't know if that makes sense to other people, but for me, I have a weird relationship with it.
and I want to get to that. I want to hear more about why nostalgia, you have a real weird relationship with it, but I'm going to be transparent. When I was reading it and creating your bio, I really got emotional as well. Like, I just felt like I wanted to cry because just even being part of that, it's magic. It's magic.
Thank you. Yeah.
And tell me why the nostalgia feels a little bit hard to touch on.
Oh man, I've always had a unique relationship with time,
Mm,
and I know that time will run out, and that's
mm,
nothing that I'm afraid of. But it's also like just when I think of my kids when they were 3 or going to the pumpkin patch, it's like while I cherish those moments, I know they're gone, and I know they'll never be the same. So I think that the fear of that, or the fear of the nostalgia of that, or almost the pain that it creates, helps me focus more on each moment that I'm
mm.
living now and currently.
Yes.
Maybe forecast a little bit on where I'd like to be, to recreate things that have been positive in the past, or maybe stay away from things that have caused pain in the past. But I think that's where it comes from, and I don't really have the real source of it yet. But I think it's just rooted in the fact that I live life so deeply and passionately, and I enjoy each moment so much. When they're gone, I get sad.
Mhm. And but I'm totally hear what you're saying. It's like what amazing memories, and we want to continue to be present in the moment to continue to create.
Yes.
Because what I've noticed, and maybe you could relate to this, I mean, I've had some amazing experiences and memories, and I think, gosh, they're gone. But what I've noticed as I grow, expand, and stay present, the moments that are created just they keep getting better and better.
Yes. And I think that's the goal, for people who are attempting to live in the present and find their best selves. And there's obviously ebbs and flows to that.
Mhm.
There's ups and downs, and but I think the quest for that is what uh drives me, at least, to focusing on that present
Mhm.
moment.
Mhm.
And then
To
someday it'll be a past moment,
Yeah,
and it'll be something to celebrate.
yeah. Well, speaking of kind of those ups and downs, I know, during the last couple of years, we've all had the ups and downs, obviously, for obvious reasons. How were you able to stay present and continue to move forward when we were in this like incredible chaos?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't actually able to do that. And I think that was, the experience that I went through, with basically, in youth sports was shut down in
Mhm.
California. So those of us that were, and then this is not a punch to anybody, but those of you listening, or those of, people that were in technology and, worked for Zoom, or, the business got better. Life got, you might have been able to work at home and see your kids more, and business got better and kept making money, and actually more money. And I think those people, I really respect, and I feel uh, I have no ill feelings towards them. On the opposite side, during what we all went through, there was people who lost their businesses, and lives were destroyed, and obviously people died, and there was just a lot of drama. But personally, to me, there was no Sarah football, there was no school really, there was no next level sports at all, because we weren't allowed to do sports, and it drove me into a very, very dark pit. And this dark pit led to something called tinnitus. I can't attribute the whole thing to tinnitus, because tinnitus, nobody really knows how people get tinnitus. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's the constant ringing in the ear.
Mm.
And sometimes our military men and women, when they're firing guns, or people that are a drummer or musicians, sometimes get tinnitus. Mine was not related to any eardrum trauma, but nevertheless, I got this ringing in my ear around, it was actually July 9th, 2020, and it
So like
sent me
six
into
months in, a few months
just
in.
a deep spiral, just fear, panic attacks, the whole thing. And so you asked me, how did I stay guided? Well, I didn't. And I think everything combined, and when I went down into that pit, it allowed me to find,
Mm.
um, the direction that I wanted to take, which was, to help our kids and our coaches and everyone else involved in youth sports to get back out onto the fields. And that was around December of 2020.
Well, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing, because
Yeah,
it shows that sometimes the universe, God, pushes us into the darkness to find our way out.
I
And
believe in that. Yeah.
thank you so much, because you were, and I was following you. That, for you to go through that led you to step up and create this movement to help get our kids back out, not only on the football field, but out onto other sports.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like it's through that darkness, which I've experienced darkness, that pushed me to come back out. And not only did you come out to help yourself, I mean, you're helping millions of people across California. I mean, I saw the kids suffer. I saw people suffering. And when I saw you step into that role, it was like we needed you.
Yeah.
We needed you at that time. But it sounds like you had to go through your own darkness to come up and lead us.
Yeah. I remember there was a moment I was talking to my wife, Lindsay, who's, my own little angel to help me
Definitely.
through tough times. But, I was like, the San Francisco 49ers have been kicked out of Santa Clara County, and you want me to do something? Like, what am I going to do if a $1 billion organization can't even play football? Like, you want me to have the answers now? And like, it was just, she just kept hammering on me, and I was just, there were so many doubts, and being able to kind of see the light from it and understanding that the fight in itself is worth everything.
Yes.
And it led to more, even in the darkest times, like finding one's purpose and finding my purpose at that moment, or finding my purpose every day, is something that I think is really, really important for all of us. And particularly during that time, because that purpose, fighting for the kids and fighting to get kids happy again, was a singular focus that was like 90 days of the most focused and intense days of my life, which was amazing.
Yeah. And look where, it got us. It got us back on the field, and it got the Serra Padres back out on the field. You guys had a 5-0 season.
Yeah.
And what was that like? I mean, coming back after the chaos, I mean, after being in the darkness, after fucking fighting, what was it like to be back on your home field?
It was such an uplifting feeling, because human nature isn't meant to social distance.
No.
We're not meant to do it. There may have been a time where it made sense to do that, and that's probably not the argument of the day.
No.
But at our core nature, we're meant for community.
Yes.
And not having that community, and whether that's the football team or my coaching staff or just friends in the neighborhood, like that was what was stripped away from all of us. That when we did get back on the field, it felt so uplifting just to be around humans again. It was like, I never want to lose that ever again. I don't know how anyone else feels. I never want that to happen ever again. And, hopefully we can find a way more gracefully through this thing. If it ever happens again, God bless, hopefully it doesn't. But other states did it more gracefully than we did. We did not have to do what we did to ourselves.
I mean, as you can see, I'm getting emotional. Because same, like, our community was stripped away from us, and something that's so incredible about community and our community is just so tight knit and close. And I felt it, like we felt it. I mean, we also experienced the community being stripped away.
Right.
Again, I just feel it. Like, I just feel the pain, and I'm so grateful and blessed that we're back.
Right.
Can share, because we have an incredible community. I mean, I know there's incredible communities all over, but there's something created that's on the field and off the field.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only is it a community, it's a brotherhood. I've heard about it, for years, living in the community, but until you're in the community, you can't explain it.
Yeah.
And when I witness these, young men and the brotherhood, I'm really blown away, Coach Walsh. Really, I'm blown away. Can you kind of share with us a little bit of how that was created? What's the philosophy behind this brotherhood that's been created? I mean, and it keeps getting stronger year. It doesn't matter if you were there, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, last year. It's real.
Yes. And, so we are a Catholic school, and, I think Jesus's main message was love, and love thy neighbor. And we happen to be an all boys school. So we love thy brother, which leads to just a simple concept of brotherhood. And that brotherhood is rooted in love, which is what I think Jesus' central teaching, and you look at all the main religions in the world, it's love is what is at the center. It's the most powerful four-letter word on the planet.
It
And
is.
our energy source for our brotherhood is love for one another. And that love for one another creates brotherhood, which creates community. And then that community, through parents and our administrators and our coaches and our players, then leads to a purpose. And then that purpose is bought into from everyone because it's rooted in something good, not something bad. It's not championships or rings or weird things, like ego driven stuff. This is more like a humility based, loving environment that people come together for a singular purpose, which is to become closer together, and then ultimately go out there and profess your love for one another through the game of football. That's the best way I can explain.
I love it. And well, you hit it on the nose. It's rooted in love,
Right.
And it seems like what I'm seeing right now is the pebble, like the tiny pebble thrown in the water, and then it ripples from there. So
Right.
we're setting the example of love, not only on the field, but off the field.
Sure.
And then it just trickles down into the community. And again, nothing's perfect, but what I've noticed that, even when there are the challenges, it comes back to the core, to the love, to the community, to the purpose. So it's really, yes, it's football, but it's more than that.
Yes, way more than that. And it's actually, I would say it's less football and more of that. Football is just the vehicle, which it's a beautiful game that requires, a deeper level of sacrifice than other games. And I think that allows us to go deeper, not only collectively, but inside ourselves. And there's that old famous saying, you can't love someone else unless you love yourself first.
Yes,
I believe that to the core.
absolutely. I do too.
And being able to dive into ourselves, find our weaknesses, find our strengths, make ourselves stronger, plug the holes in the weaknesses, be vulnerable to other people, that love for oneself then can go out into the world and build a community of love, which ultimately leads to brotherhood and everything else that I just explained.
Yeah, I mean, that's key self-love. I mean, that's something I've been preaching for a long time, which I didn't have for a long time. And it's amazing that once you get centered and find the love with yourself and love for your higher power, being God, Jesus, universe, that's a game changer. And so what I'm hearing you is like you instill that from the moment they walk in, like the love, like the community, take care of each other.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's probably one of our non-negotiables is, while we celebrate individual achievements, we really do.
Mhm.
Some kids go to college to play football. Some kids don't go to college at all.
Mhm.
But we want a singular focus for one another, and that's our non-negotiable. And selfish individuals that are there for themselves and their own personal gain either don't make it. Most of them do, or they buy in and they understand that by giving of oneself, you actually lift yourself up more. And
Yes.
and but you have to do it, with truth. You
Right.
can't be fake about it. Like, oh, I'm gonna love this guy so I can get more touchdowns or whatever.
Right.
So if it's
Well,
comes from the true spot, then everybody lifts.
and it's also an alignment. If I'm showing up and just pretending that I'm, being loving and kind, that's energetic. Like you're gonna know I'm full of shit.
Correct.
And so teaching like, but it goes back to loving yourself. When you have that love and integrity, it's going to come out. And that's so I mean, you have an impressive history. I mean, the wins, just when you came in, they had only gone to the playoff 3 times. I mean, 16 out of 19 seasons. It's got to be more than skill.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. But the skill helps.
The skill
Um,
helps, but
yes.
there's something like there's something behind it. Tell us about that.
You're right. You're right. And I would say, in the years that I've been there, just um, having the relationships and the support structure, around a singular vision has been
Mm,
crucial for our growth from 2001 to 2021 and now headed into 2022. And those relationships and trust, my offensive coordinator, my defensive coordinator, my brother coaches the D line, like these relationships, they're not just like title. They're they're like delegatory positions rooted in the fact that I trust them and they trust me. And the reason why that all works together, Grace, is because we are all focused on the fact that through love, we need to build relationships that make all of us better. And, being able to delegate, like when I was 26, you mentioned in the bio 2001, I didn't want to delegate, nor did I know how to delegate, nor did I know what to delegate. So, as I've matured in the head coaching role, the power of delegation, I've been able to see how that's super important in building an organization because it empowers everybody.
Yes.
Nobody likes to, yeah.
It goes back to what you said, the self-love, so once I'm rooted in who I am, then I can, like you said earlier, like I can give back, and you're giving them the opportunity to step up as leaders.
Correct. And then ultimately I won't be the head coach at Sarah. Someone else will be. Right. Maybe there'll be another offensive coordinator, another defensive coordinator, another freshman coach, whatever. In organizations, there's always moving parts. Sure. And hopefully, those the environment that we've created assists people to continue to move up in the world.
Well, because there may come a day, right?
There may.
Where there may, where you may do something.
There will. Yeah.
Talking about, you've been the leader, you've been the head of this incredible organization. What do you think are key factors for someone to be a leader, to step into that role?
Well, I think first and foremost is confidence in oneself. Mm-hmm. And, know thyself, and, some Yoda stuff about becoming a Jedi is only rooted from within.
Yeah. And I love Yoda Jedi stuff.
Yeah, I do too. And I struggle with that.
I do too.
It's hard. It's not something that is clear every day, or, it's like I wake up every morning knowing exactly where I'm going. Like, that's not true. Mm-hmm. And, there's time periods and, kind of segments of my life where I feel like I'm doing better than others. And, once I get to a point where I believe in where I need to be going and I should go, then I think it's time for me to show other people how to get there, or ask people to come along to go to this beautiful spot together. So it starts with the leader. And everyone knows when they're working for a fake leader or a poor leader, it just doesn't lift people. No. So,
well, you can tell. Well, I'm going to share a story. So, I mean, I've heard, when I first got involved in the community, everyone, Patrick Walsh, I hadn't met you yet. And out comes this gentleman and, grabs the baby and has this energy and is just like so dynamic and magnetic. And I'm like, who's that? They're like, that's Coach Walsh. Now it all makes sense. Because you are your energy is real. Like, it doesn't get realer than you. And I think that's something I appreciate about you, because you keep it real. Like, when you need to, lay it down, you lay it down, and you don't sugarcoat it. And I think that's important, and that's necessary for, any leader.
Yeah.
You can't sugarcoat it, and you don't. And at the same time, you come out like just, you are loving, and that's who you are, but you also, lay it down, which is important.
Yeah. And change is painful. There's no easy change. Particularly if you're changing to get better, we all get stuck in our ruts, and change is painful. So when you talk about truth and being honest, as I'm looking at, that's a 15-year-old kid or a 16-year-old kid, or even myself, like, I know what I'm about to tell you is going to be painful, but it's going to be truthful. And we know together that if we fix it, you're going to get better. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
And then the message is important too. If it's delivered, in a capping way, or to cut someone down because you think that's going to motivate them. Like, I've never been that type of guy. Like, hey, you really need to lose some weight. Like, there's ways to do it where it's like, yeah, let's do this, because, you give them a reason, or you show them the end goal. And that's kind of like my leadership style. It's not capping to make people better. It's uplifting and challenging people to get them to be better.
If you can you give us an example of one time, if something comes to mind, where you had to kind of lay it down on a player, and then once you laid it down, you saw him kind of flourish and kind of take your words of wisdom and just
come
out great?
Sure. There's yearly battles with performance. And the great thing about football is we literally film everything. And a lot of times in football, you can try to fake football, but the great thing about the game is it'll expose you if you're trying to fake it, whether you're trying to fake it from a physical perspective or a knowledge perspective or even a spiritual perspective. So we
Sounds
had
like life.
exactly right. You're so right, and you can't really fake it. I mean, life and football is at some point you're going to get exposed, and then you're going to be in that position, Grace, where it's like I have a choice: make a painful change or stay in the rut that I'm living.
Yeah.
So to give you a good example is, we had a linebacker last year that thought he was playing a lot better than he actually was. So I had to sit down, show him the film, and say, "Look, I love you, great person. This is not going well, and here's why." And I'll do this throughout the course of a year. I'll ask one of my coaches, I need a 10-play cut up, which is 10 plays from different areas of practice or games that I can show this individual what he's doing incorrectly. And then on the flip side of that, show 5 or 6 plays on an individual doing it correctly. And it might even be him.
Mhm.
Here's when you were doing it wrong. Here's when you're doing it right, or someone else. And this is where we need you to get to. And usually there's a reason why, Grace, they're not getting there. They're not studying enough. They're not working hard enough in the weight room. And maybe it's just a decision that they need to make to go over that fence that's blocking them, like go over it or through it or whatever it takes to get to the point where we know you can achieve the way we need you to achieve. So that happens, by position yearly. And I remember the linebacker last year specifically. Yeah.
Well, now you're talking about mentorship, and I think that's missing in so much of our, young kids' lives. Is yes, we have the leaders and the coaches, but what you're talking about is like you're mentoring them, and I don't think we see that often enough. Like we're like, oh, you did great, but did you really do great? So where you're saying, okay, yes, I love you, you're a great person. Here's where you could do better, and I think we missed a lot of that, not only kind of in sports, but in life. Like who's there to tell us, okay, this is where you could do better, and I think. I love that.
And I think we've gotten soft. I think
I agree.
I think a lot of the culture's gotten soft, or like, a C is okay, and a C is okay, but a C is not great,
No.
and the standard for measuring human progress has it can't be lowered.
No.
And in our program at Sarah, we're not going to lower the standard to meet what other objective is out there. And that's the great thing about Sarah High School. It's a great thing about, about our football program, our administration is, they support the fact that you either do it right or you do it wrong. And you're allowed to tell someone when you do it wrong. There's some cultures out there where you're not allowed to tell people when they do something wrong. How are they going to get better? I don't get
how are you going to get better? Also,
Yeah.
I mean, I always talk about there's no perfectionism, there's progress, but there's also excellence. Like we can strive to be great, to be the best, to be, for that excellence. There's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
And if that's what's within you, like, I think that's great.
Right.
I just don't think that sugarcoating and it's fine. No, it's not fine. This is where you could do. And that's what I love that example. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Something I want to ask you is, you had so many incredible moments as a coach. I mean, I just went, and there was more that I didn't share. But what you said was one of your proudest moments as a coach was when you were banned from the playoffs in 2015 for forfeiting the CCS consolation game in 2014. Tell us why that was one of the most proudest moments for you.
Well, for me, that was one of the proudest moments because we, collectively we made a decision that, and I was obviously the leader of the decision, that we're going to put our kids first. And when I mean our kids, I mean all kids, before a decision on the structure of a playoff system was laid out before us. And I didn't do it gracefully enough. And a beautiful name, by the way, Grace. I didn't do it gracefully enough. And if I had to do it over again, I would have done it differently. But the outcome is still the same. And that was, our boys' bodies, their brains with concussions and shoulders and knees and hips and ankles and all of that is something that's sacred. And we're playing a game that's very physical. And we have to do it as safe as we can for the least amount of time as we can to achieve what everyone's trying to achieve, is win a championship or whatever. And at that time, we were in a playoff. We were playing consolation football, and a consolation game is a game that does not lead to the championship. And I think what got misconstrued was my attitude of like, oh, we only play for championships at Sarah. And that's what came out. And I'm going to take ownership on how that came out. But that really wasn't my message. My message was, why are we playing games that literally football games that are consolation football games? They should not be played. These games, you lose, which we did. We lost to Los Gatos 24-0. Coach Crail at Los Gatos always reminds me about that. We lost. We weren't good that day. AKA Los Gatos was great that day. Our season was over. Everyone's crying. Move on. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had to come back and keep playing these consolation games, and it just felt wrong. And, 5 seniors the Thursday before our last consolation game came in and dropped their bags off in my office and said, Coach, we don't think this is right. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you guys advocating for yourselves. And then that was a little bit of more emotion to go do something that I knew was going to be very, very, very publicly scorned, if you will. But the love of our community, the love of our kids, the love of the kids on the other team. Like it got to a point 3 a.m. in the morning, Grace, where I was like, if one kid gets hurt tomorrow night on either side of the ball, I will not be able to live with myself. And I said, I'm not getting on the bus.
Well, you're authentic to yourself and you listen to your players.
That's right.
Which brings me to, you're very successful. And with success comes, the other side, the criticism. And, I've seen some stuff come through. How do you handle that? Like, how do you handle the criticism when it's just twisted? It's not the truth.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. Like some of the things, particularly recently that have happened, it hurts. It's like, wow, that hurts. But what helps is the support. And at times I'm the buoy to help people through tough times. But there's other times where everyone else is the buoy to help me through tough times. And when those things happen and the love comes back from the community of people who actually know me and know what the mission is, it actually makes it simple. But I got to get through the tough time first. And with social media and the power of the pen, anybody can say anything these days.
Right.
So I'm also mature enough, getting to a point where I'm mature enough where I need to be able to sift through that and focus on the things that matter, which is my family who lives in this house and my family outside this house, which is, Next Level Sports and Sarah football. And if we're doing right by each other, we don't need anybody else.
Amen.
Particularly the people who are, trying to fire arrows at something that's a beautiful thing.
Yes. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. So, and particularly there was an article written right before the season. I don't know if you're referring to that, but gosh, the players really took it hard. They really were like, you don't talk to our coach that way. This is not who. And I was like, wow, this is great. Mm-hmm. It's hurtful, but it was great.
It may be. I know there's a few, but it may be that. But you're right. Like we, as a community, like we know, who you are, as a coach, and we understand that, with this, with the controversy comes the other side. And I love how authentic you are. You're like, you know what? Yeah, it hurts. And at the same time, I have that support. Because we're human, we're all human, regardless of who we are, how much we've done, how much we've accomplished. I think at the end of the day, we're all human beings who want to be part of something.
Right. It's true.
Did you dream of being a football coach? Like, was that your dream?
It was, yeah.
Nice.
Well, once I realized I was not going to be a professional athlete, which was my dream, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Like, I want to play pro baseball. Playing pro baseball was my ultimate dream. And then when I realized that wasn't going to happen, and I realized that I had a love for and passion for the game of football, it was at a pretty young age, like sophomore, junior in college, that I wanted to give back all the things that I've learned from my great coaches like Bob Lattiser at De La Salle and Augie Garrido at the University of Texas in baseball, and some of these wonderful men that have guided me and guided my teams and communities. Like, I want to do that for my living. That's going to be really fun. So
would you say that's your why? Would you say that's your why? Just like the giving back and being that mentor to the kids, to the community?
Yeah, I think, but really, Grace, and I think this is kind of the theme that's coming out from this talk is my why is that during specific times of my life, that because of football and because of the lessons I learned, I was living the best version of myself. And it's almost like a drug for me now. Like, football season, like, gives me an opportunity to sacrifice and dive into relationships and love one another and go through the ups and downs of the season and try to build friendships and relationships. Like, as a player, that's what I did every time. And I made sacrifices and did things in my life that made me better. So I would say my why is it makes me better. And I think we've kind of hitting on a theme about self-improvement or whatever.
Right.
And self-improvement is, it's
coming back to that point.
I think so. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So when we're giving, we're just, well, I mean, as a coach also, they say, well, you're coaching to help yourself to get better. So it's a give and take. There's a reciprocity there.
True. Very true. And if I'm going to be authentic with the guys, because I ask the guys every day to get a little bit better. And if I'm not getting better that day, then how can I ask someone else to get better that day?
You're right. And so I want to talk about the key factors to your success. I know you talked a little bit about some of them, but what do you think are the main points? Like, what keeps you getting up and being successful every day? I mean, I know some days we're not successful. I don't mean it like that. I mean it just like in the big picture. What keeps you moving forward?
Sure. I would say, there's, if God gave me, any kind of daily gift, I'm very competitive.
No, really?
I'm very competitive, and I've had to manage that over my life. And if I'm looking at the end, like, okay, what got you out of bed this morning, or what makes you want to strive to for whatever goal I have, is I'm very competitive. And I don't want to fail. And I think a lot of it has to be, I'm not the tallest guy. I was never the most gifted athlete or that sort of thing. And I was always an underdog. And that underdog mentality has served me throughout my life. And it's been, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. When people tell me I can't do something, it's like, dang, man, you're right. That really hurts. And then I try to do it. And ultimately I do.
What's
all the time.
We definitely have that in common for sure. You can't do. I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Let me show you.
That's right. And we figure it out.
Yeah.
So I would say that's one of the factors, Grace, is just that I'm a born competitor. I like to compete and I like to succeed, and I like to win, and I'm driven by that. But in the right way. And that's where I've, because of that, I said it's a plus and a minus, but I like to win, but what is winning? So I have to ask that question. I like to be successful. Okay, what does that mean? So I've battled with that. What's success? Is it,
and it can mean something different 5 years ago, for you 5 years ago, now and in the future could mean something different.
That's right.
So last year when you went to the state championship, Sarah went up against Mater Dei. I mean, one of the, best teams. And what did it feel like to know that your team was going to be competing kind of at that level? Like, what did that feel like after all these years?
I remember when Justin Ferdinand, our athletic director, told us that, we were selected for that game. We're the number one team in Northern California. It wasn't played for, it was selected. I mean, there was an argument that Folsom should have got picked or De La Salle, whatever, but they picked us. And, it's been a long time, particularly coming from De La Salle, where they're number one all the time, to even be considered, our program is better, or was picked better, perceived to be better that year, was like, wow, that's different. And, I'm a competitor. So at some point I'd like to play that out and not be picked. But knowing that we were going to go down and play the number one team in the country, not just California, in the country by a lot of points, it felt overwhelming and daunting, to be honest with you, on a football side. On a programmatic side and exposure side, and being able to celebrate who we are and the opportunity to do that regardless of the opponent, it was blissful. It was amazing.
I can't even imagine.
But the team, I mean, we lost 44-7, I think, and they're just, it's a big physical game. I always say if they pray and we pray, and they care and we care, and they work hard and we work hard, and they're 6'5", 240 pounds, and they run a 4.1 40, and we're 5'6", and we're 200 pounds, and we run a 5.6 40. Well, there's physics involved in that.
Totally.
We didn't back down. We didn't tap out. We showed courage.
Mm-hmm.
We showed that we loved each other. We did all those things well, but just physics got a hold of us there at the end.
Well, ultimately, I think it was, that was the biggest lesson right there. Yeah, physics played it out in the end, but they showed up. Like, you showed up, the kids showed up, and it was an emotional time. So thank you.
No shame at all in that. No shame at all. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, that was amazing. Like, thank you for leading us, to that point. It was incredible to be there.
I think to get there, though, you can't think about that. You have to think about how we got there. On November 6th, 2021, we lost to St. Francis 44 we got crushed.
I remember.
They never punted. It was a very demoralizing game. And then 20 days later, on November 26th, we found a way to beat the same team that literally humiliated us 20 days early. And when I mean humiliated, they did proper good football. We just got beat. And that is what I think mostly about that modern day game. Not that we actually played the modern day game, but what we did in those 20 days to get there. True, painful transformation of coaches, of focus, of the kids. It was an amazing 20-day experience, one that I'll never forget.
And I was there to witness, that St. Francis game, and it was incredible. And this is what it's about. Yes, it's about football, but it's about the transformations that happen, because those games don't get won unless there's a transformation, from within, unless you come together as a team. And that's been so incredible to watch. It's been incredible to witness, be a part of it. I want to say thank you so much, not only for what you do for the kids on the field, but off the field.
You're welcome.
And I'd love for you to share, because it's you have Next Level Sports.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to share with our audience, tell them a little bit about that. And I know it's kind of spread out across cities and states.
Yeah.
So the brotherhood starts with that. If you can share a little bit with us.
Yeah. My partner and I, Lance Smith, when our kids were kindergartners, and we founded, an idea of creating a flag football league around high school kids. So we pay the high school players to be the head coaches of the youth flag football teams. And the relationship between a high school player and a kindergartner, and a high school player and a fifth grader or sixth grader, that bond was so unique that we basically built our entire business around that. And we said, hey, if it could work at Serra, can it work at De La Salle? Sure. If it could work at De La Salle, can it work at Cal? Cal Berkeley, the Bears? Yes. So we've just, if it can work for flag football, can it work for girls volleyball? Yes. And it's a co-mentorship environment rooted in developing kids and giving them a unique experience to be a part of something special. So growing up playing youth sports, it's always going to be a memory in your brain, girls and boys. If I can play in a park, that's great. If I can play at Serra High School, that's better. If I can play, in a park in Berkeley, that's great. Playing in Cal Memorial Stadium is better. So we have big dreams to create big memories for little kids.
Beautiful. And if someone is interested in registering their son or daughter or into the sports, where can they find you?
Nextlevelsports.com.
And I'll make sure that I put that information down there for everyone. Coach Walsh, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. It's been, like I said, incredible to witness. And for those of you watching, if you have any questions for Coach Walsh or myself, just put it in the chat. I'll definitely come back to it. I know there's 100 other podcasts you can watch. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And Coach Walsh, again, thank you so much. We really appreciate you and all that you do for the entire community. And
thank you for the opportunity, Grace.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hang on with me. All right, all have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for being with us. Bye-bye. love. Thank you so much for listening today. I am so grateful for you. I'd like to show you my appreciation by gifting you a free forgiveness self-hypnosis audio download. Part of living the fun and fabulous life is practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness can be such a long and challenging process. My intention is that this forgiveness audio will help you in practicing forgiveness, especially with yourself. Grab it by visiting daretoachieve.com/forgiveness. For more inspiring tips, make sure to connect with me on social media. Drop me a line on Facebook or Instagram at Grace Redmond Dare to Achieve. Until next time, keep moving forward towards living your fabulous life.